So, hello. Welcome,
Hello.
Lucas.
Thank
Great
you.
to
Thank you.
have you again.
Great to be here.
So, for those that don't know you, what do you do and how did you start?
Oh, cool. So I'm Lucas Burnett. I am sub to Arkansas. Definitely a creative buyer, wholesaler, business buyer, especially on creative, and a connector. 100% a connector.
Okay, awesome. So, what does that look like being a connector?
So it's just basically being a people person. It's every single day. I market myself in various different groups. I get on calls, 30-minute Zoom calls with people. I learn about their business. I learn what they're doing. And my famous line is if I had a magic wand and I could make one problem in your business, the biggest problem in your business, disappear, what would that problem be? And then I try to be the person who finds that solution for that person if they're struggling with, you know, raising private money or finding lenders, or if they've got deals but no buyers, or vice versa, right? I try to be that bridge between them and what's holding them back.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And how long have you been doing that for?
Honestly, I started out as kind of a visionary closer. I've always been good with talking with people and everything like that. Background in sales, but it just wasn't my passion long term. And then I've been doing this, honestly, the connector role for about the last month, and it's been extremely rewarding. It definitely falls more within my personality type.
Why do you think that is?
I don't really know. It's kind of weird because it's almost the same situation. You're on a phone call, or a Zoom call. You're talking with someone. You're trying to dive to the bottom of the problem, right, and find a solution. Um, but it's just my personality. I'd rather help uh, with people who are in the same industry as me than trying to get out there and convince someone to sell their property. I would rather help those who are already doing the cold calling. You know what I mean? I was talking with Myron Briley the other day, and we both agreed cold calling sucks. You know what I mean? It's just not in line with my personality.
Hmm. And so, you were saying that you were doing, like you were saying, calling and then now connecting. So, I want to podcast as well to show people like, hey, anybody can do a deal, and it's really just about like going into it and putting yourself, applying yourself to actually do these deals. So you were talking to me the other day about your first deal, and
Yeah,
let's go through a brief background of like what you were saying, because I know you had said that you were living in like a trailer kind of, and how
not
did you,
quite.
okay, yeah, tell me
Much
so.
worse. Much worse. So, just to preface this a little bit, it's not like I always tell people I was homeless, but it's not like we weren't doing things in the beginning. Me and my wife, we had been together for several years at this point, and she was in education. I was always a blue collar worker. I was a truck driver at the time, and we had a home. We paid our utilities every month like everyone else, and we were doing fine, at least to our mindset at the time, right?
Yeah.
And we just decided that she would go over the road with me, get her CDL. So we ended the lease on the place that we were renting. We bought a 12 by 32 storage shed, basically, that was uninsulated, had no electricity, water, anything like that. And we moved it onto an acre of land that we owned. The plan was just to move all of our stuff into this little storage shed and then go on the road together. Well, unfortunately, a lot of things would end up happening, and that just would not come to fruition the way we planned. She would end up getting a promotion. I would end up dealing with some health complications. We had multiple deaths in the family. My grandpa had a stroke and we were taking care of him. So it was literally one of those situations where everything that could go wrong absolutely did, right?
Yeah.
Which unfortunately landed us without a place to live. And here I am sick. I can't work. My wife is working, in education, which anyone who's familiar with that field, they don't pay our teachers enough, right? And so it was just a bad situation. And we ended up in that situation, no insulation, no running water, no electricity for 5 years,
Oh my gosh.
no bathroom. You can imagine how creative we had to get with that one. So apparently I've been in creative deals my whole life. But but anyway, um, it all started really with me just coming from a desire for me to try to find anything that I could do to support my family. So I started, I live in the technological age, we don't go out and go to the unemployment office anymore. We get online. We try to find ways to make money. And that's what I did. I was just trying to find anything I could do from home that wasn't a scam.
Yeah.
And I ran across Jerry Norton just randomly one day. And he was talking about this thing called wholesale real estate. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this sounds like a scam, but if it's not, this is cool, right? And I downloaded his contracts and I really didn't think nothing else about it. I was driving home from dropping my wife off at work. And I must have drove past this house 1,000 times before and just never noticed it. But I literally stopped, pulled in the driveway. The windows were boarded up. The yard was overgrown. But it was in one of the nicest neighborhoods that we have. It's one of the more desirable neighborhoods. And I thought to myself, this is exactly the definition of a distressed home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So did some free skip tracing, the old school wholesaler way. Go to truepeoplesearch.com. You know what I mean? Find the owner. Man, I grinded out through 18 different possible owners, until I finally found that the person who owned it.
Wow.
Over the next 3 months, we would negotiate a purchase price on that. Poorly, I might add, because at this time, I absolutely sucked at negotiation. So once we finally got it under contract, it wasn't but just a few weeks. I'm sitting in a title company holding a check for $5,000.
Whoa.
And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, I can remember sitting in the car, looking at my wife, and then looking back at this check and feeling like I had robbed a bank, right? Because I'd never held this much money in my hand at one time before. Right. And so it really kind of set a fire under me. It really did. Because over the next 3 months or so, I would end up putting 3 more properties under contract. 2 of them I assigned for $6,000 each. But the third one would fall apart as a wholesale. And it would be my first real challenge in real estate. And I think that's the one I want to kind of break down with you today, if that's okay. I think we should break down that deal a little bit.
I would love to. And just for clarification, so with that first one that took 3 months to close and negotiate, so did you also wholesale that? So were all of these wholesale deals?
All of them until this very last deal, the 4th deal, was all wholesales. Wow.
So you got $5,000. And for those that don't know what wholesaling is, how would you define it?
So it's pretty much like this. If you own a property and for whatever reason you just can't sell it on traditional terms, usually what I will do is I will step in, I will put that property under contract. I'm putting it on paper as if I'm going to buy it, right? And then I turn around and I have a buyer, say he's a fix and flipper. He's someone who's rehabbing properties. I bring it to him and I sell it to him for a fee. I basically sell my place, my position in that contract, or my equitable interest in that contract for a fee to someone who maybe doesn't have the time to go out and find these leads. You know, if you've ever talked to someone who's flipping real estate, they do not have time to generate leads.
Not at all.
They're busy with contractors. They're busy with, you know, design plans and trying to hit timelines because they got lenders waiting on payouts and they don't want to pay any extra points. You know what I'm saying? So they really rely on, you know, wholesaling overall to bring them that lead flow so they can just jump from one project to the next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So essentially a wholesaler will get a property under contract with a purchase and sale contract, and then
Correct.
will sell that contract to a flipper or a buyer for a fee.
Or your position within that contract. You know, I think the technical term is equitable interest, but it's literally just your position in the contract. You're selling your right to buy or your legal right to buy that property to someone else.
I think that's like a perfect way to describe it. And yeah, okay. Then I would love to go over the deal that you're talking about. Like, how did this fall apart? And you had the numbers,
right? And so here's how it kind of fell apart. So in Arkansas, I've been extremely blessed because if you talk to any wholesaler, the conversation of assignments and bank loans do not go together, right? You never can get a loan if you're a wholesaler, you know, or your buyer can never do it with, you know, funds that they source through traditional financing, such as a bank loan or something like that, because banks do not really like paying out assignment. For whatever reason that is, they just do not. Well, luckily, a lot of my hometown banks around here would do that. So some of the deals I was getting in the beginning were actually, you know, fix and flippers or buy and hold investors that were using traditional financing to fund the deals, right? And I would actually get paid an assignment fee through that as well, which was kind of lucky for me. So this last deal, there was a young man, I think he was probably 22 years old, that was looking for you know, a property to buy for himself. And the three deals that I told you about before, the two that I assigned for $6,000 each, and then this last one that fell apart, they were part of a package deal from one seller.
Oh,
okay. Well, unfortunately, that last one, it was a double wide mobile home on an acre of land, which is really desirable here in Arkansas. A lot of people like the more rural setting. But the previous tenants had just wrecked the inside of it. It was terrible. I mean, when I say they left their dogs in there for 2 weeks without anybody to take them out, and you can kind of imagine what they did while they were in there. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. But I had it under contract for $29,000 because it just needed so much work. The buyer went to the bank, tried to get a loan for it. I was selling it for $35,000, so I was just going to make a quick, like, little $7,000 fee off the top for selling it. Unfortunately, when the appraiser got out there, they appraised the property. They appraised it at $20,000 and would only lend him $16,000 on the deal. Forgive me, it's taken me a minute to remember the details because this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So right there, that kills the deal initially for a wholesale, because we've already got an appraisal at 20. Bank will lend 16. I'm asking 35. Not going to happen. It's dead as a wholesale, at least to me, in this very small area that we're working in.
Yeah.
So I had been listening to Jerry Norton for a while at this point. He'd been talking about this guy named Pace Morgan, right? And this strategy called Sub 2. And I had a basic understanding of the strategy, but, you know, I didn't have contracts for it. I didn't have any connections with any kind of title or company or anything like that that would help someone bring one of those deals across the finish line. But I'm stubborn. So I asked the seller, I kind of pitched sub 2 to the seller, and the absolute worst thing that could happen did. She said yes.
Ah!
And now I'm panicking because I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I just pitched a sub 2 deal to this woman. She said yes, and now I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to take action. Anytime you're in any kind of investment field, real estate, anything like that, sales. If you're a sales manager, you've got to take daily action,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not comfortable with it, right? So at this point, the only thing I knew to do was I've got to get in touch with Pace Morby. That's just all there is to it. I have to get in touch with him. And most people, they would have bought their way into the mentorship and waited a few weeks to get on live with him. I'm not that guy. I spammed his DM on Instagram. And you know what happened?
Huh.
He actually answered me.
Yep.
He answered me, and he hopped on a 20-minute call with me while he's sitting at his house recording Triple Digit Flip. He made A&E mad because he's supposed to be recording a TV show, but he's on the phone with someone he's never met before, right? Over that about 20-minute call, he answered 5 really high-level questions for me. And it really, what that call accomplished for me is it reassured me more than anything that I needed to be in sub 2, because I really didn't think I was going to close this deal without it. And if I did, I probably wasn't going to make any money on it for sure. Right. So I had $1,000 left to my name at this point, living expenses, debt, all of these other things, taking care of my grandpa who had had a stroke, all of these things, they had taken a toll on all that money that I was making. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had $1,000 left to my name. Now, out of this money, I'm supposed to be taking my wife back and forth to work, buying groceries, all the normal things we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just took the leap of faith, and I spent that last $1,000 to my name, and I put it into a financing plan for sub 2. So now I'm broke, but I got a mentorship, right? Hopefully this is going to pay off.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will pay off. Well, I'm sitting there, and about a week later, I get a notification on my phone, and it was, YouTube, Pace Morby's dropped another video, and the title of the video was, should you use a servicing company on a wrap? And I thought, that is exactly the conversation me and Pace had. I need to check this out, right? Little did I know, Pace had recorded our phone conversation and had dropped a video on YouTube of it, right? Mm. So now I'm ecstatic. I'm like, oh my God, he put the video up, and it was all cool, but let's put a pin in that for a second, because it's very, very important. But I really never thought anything about that, right? Mm-hmm. It's cool, but moving on, we got business to do.
Yeah.
So about 3 weeks after joining the mentorship, I had that subject 2 done. It's closed. All right. We've got it closed. Everything is done. And we'll go over those numbers in just a minute.
Okay.
So if you want to bring up that whiteboard, I can kind of show you what those numbers would actually look like.
All right. And when you say closed, do you mean you bought it or you hold?
Right. I got it through title. The deed was in my name. And we actually ended up doing a wrap on this deal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I go big or go home. I didn't just go for the sub 2. I went for the wrap.
Yeah. Okay. So so this is the seller, this is the home, and then This is you.
Got you. Oh, you made me look so flattering. I am not that skinny.
Well, I can't change him now. He is what he is. So
all right, we'll work on it. It's manifestation, right?
So tell me about the deal.
Okay, so the original terms of the deal was they wanted to sell it to me for 28,000.
Okay. So purchase was 28K.
Correct. Um, then the buyer was coming in to buy it at 35K.
Okay. And then you wanted to sell it for 35.
Correct. That would have left me about a $7,000 profit on the deal. Easy
All right.
peasy, normal wholesale.
Yep.
All right. So once the bank came back, with the appraiser came back and said, we're blowing up your deal, basically. What I did is I went back to the seller and I asked her, I said, well, how much do you owe on this property? And she said, I owe 19,000.
Oh, okay.
I said, okay, you owe 19,000. And then I asked her, I said, do you have any arrears, anything like that? She said, no. And I pitched up to her. I said, hey, well, would you let me take ownership of the property? We'll leave the mortgage in your name, and I will pay off the mortgage for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so she was like, at first she was like, no. Then she was like, I need to talk to my husband about this. So they talked. They came back. They said, if you'll give us $2,200 cash at close, we'll do the deal with you. I said, done. I went back to the buyer and I asked him, I said, I know this deal blew up, but what if I financed the deal to you? I said, would you want me to just be the bank for you? And he's like, dude, that would be great. I said, well, do you have any money down? He said, I have $10,000 I can put down. I said, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So we now have agreed to a $10,000 down payment.
Okay.
And then the monthly PITI on this was right around, I think, like 383.
Okay. Oh wait, and that's $383?
Yes.
Oh my God. Arkansas is a dream. Goodness.
It really is. It really is. 2.5% interest.
Wow.
I'm speaking your love language, aren't I? I love it. All right. So I sold it to the buyer or I wrapped it to the buyer for $703 a month.
Okay, hold on. So the seller was selling this house to you, and
Correct.
then you were selling to the buyer.
Correct.
And how did the appraiser wreck the deal?
Well, because he appraised it for 20,000 and would only lend 16. Which he would only lend 16, which is less than what was even owed on the property.
20,000. What do you mean the appraiser would only lend 16?
No, not the appraiser. I'm saying based upon his appraisal, the bank would only lend the buyer 16,000.
Gotcha. And so this buyer, it wasn't an investor buyer. This is someone
Correct.
who live there.
Yeah. They wanted to live there. They wanted to live there, fix up the property, and have it for themselves.
Gotcha. So the bank would only loan up to 16K, and
Correct.
the seller owed 19. So the 16 wouldn't even cover it. So you would
Exactly. So it just blew up the wholesale.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So from there on out, what I did is I structured my wrap terms around those existing terms that I'm paying for the seller, which is the PITI of 383, 2.5% interest, and I have my $2,200 cash at close. Right.
Yeah.
So here's what I did. I took $10,000 as a down payment.
All right. So down payment 10,000.
That was put into escrow.
All right.
All right. I said, I will sell this to you for $703 a month. That was
Okay,
my wrap mortgage terms.
cool. And so these are monthly payments to you.
Correct. And then I believe the total purchase price for him was $40,000. No, it was 35,000 plus five because he did not have money left over for closing costs. So I said, I'll cover the closing costs and I'll just push them to the back end of the note. So basically, what I did there is I raised roughly $5,000 in closing costs up to, or I put it into the purchase price. So that rounded it out to 40. That
Wow.
way, now the reason I did that was because when I charged him interest, I wanted to make money on covering those closing costs. So I just put that extra 5,000 into the purchase price, and then I was selling it to him at 9% interest.
Wow. And how much was the monthly payments?
So my monthly payments on that was $383, and he was paying $703.
703. And then the interest was how much? 9?
9%.
Wow. That's crazy.
So if you look at that, you can already see what's going to happen there. But I got $703 a month, which was roughly a little over $300 a month profit margin on that for 2 years. And then middle of this year, he just cashed me out for a total of $16,000. So I made this $300 cash flow for 2 years, got $10,000 up front, and got cashed out earlier this year for $16,000.
Oh my God.
And paid off the debt for the seller.
Wow. Okay. So these were the wrap terms. So this was we'll go back to, let me redraw this lovely house. So this was the house, and this was the seller. I'm just going to put S. And then this was you, Lucas. And then this was the end buyer. I'm just going to put back. So he was selling it to you, and you were selling it to him. And so these are the terms that he was getting. He was having to put down a down payment of $10,000, monthly payments of $703. His total purchase price was $40,000, and the interest rate was 9%.
You got it.
And so you got, this is what you made. You made 10,000 down, and then from that PITI over here, so minus 383, we're just going to say around $300. Just make it easy. So you got 10,000, you got 300 for about 2 years, which I'm just going to put 24 months.
Right.
And another 16,000. Wow. So that is some number that is not going in my mind right now.
So it'd be about $3,660, about $7,200 for the 2 years that I claimed there. So you got 26.
Got you. So
26 plus that number. So it's probably right around, I guess, probably around close to $30,000 in profit over a 2-year span.
Yeah. So yeah, just from these numbers, it was like 24,200.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so of that, you paid the seller 2,200, right?
Yes.
So it was minus 2,200.
Plus, probably about $3 grand. We just rounded up to 5 for the closing costs on the buyer side there, but it was probably about $3 grand in closing costs or so, and fees, stuff like that. So, roughly, you can about say, $5,200 is what I was on the hook for in the beginning of the deal, but that $10,000 down payment covered all of that and still netted me a check.
Yeah. So essentially, you had netted $19,000. from all that minus the down payment minus the fees, the closing cost fees.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh.
So I turned a dead deal into $20,000 profit.
Wow. That is crazy. That is insanely good. So do you
I love how you drew that out too, because I've never actually seen it drawn out on a whiteboard, but that's good. I love that.
Right. That's why I want to do more of these. I love
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you were saying, how you watch Pace, and Pace goes over these. Pace and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of great people draw things out, and it's so helpful to see it visually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's just awesome because then you see, what the let me draw a little quick thing here. So this was the original,
Mm-hmm.
and then because of this, that original was now X'd out. So
Right.
now you have to go on to something creative, and the
Yeah,
creative.
pivot. You just got to pivot.
Yep.
If one way doesn't work, figure out which way does.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you went the sub 2 route, right? Because he still had a mortgage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And to be honest with you, I probably could have even went seller finance route there, but I wanted the control.
nice.
I wanted the control. I wanted to hold the deed. That way I could be the one that, was placing basically a lien on that wraparound mortgage. I wanted to be able to hold a lien when I pass that off, because the great thing about a wrap is simply this. Yeah, you can rent a property all day, but you still got to pay the taxes on that property. You've got to pay if the hot water heater goes out at 3 o'clock in the morning. Who do you think they're going to call? They're going to call you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with a wrap, it's so ingenious because you are moving the deed over into the buyer's name, but
Yep.
you're putting a lien on it, right? So if the hot water heater goes out, that's their problem because they're now a homeowner, right? I don't have to pay the taxes every year, but they have to show me that they're keeping insurance and keeping the taxes paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it really puts me in a position of control here to make sure everything's running right, because there are so many moving parts to a deal like this,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want the seller being responsible for that or having control over that. I don't want the buyer having control over that. I want to make sure that everything is running the way it's supposed to.
Man. Well, that's awesome. And so what was even cool, like let's go back to those that may be wondering, like, because the 2200 wasn't a part of was not a part of paying this down, right?
No,
Okay. So
that
that
was
was,
extra. It was so funny because I always ask the question, why?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Even if it's kind of an uncomfortable situation to ask that question, but I had to know. I was like, why the 22, the 2,200 cash at closing? And she said, well, really, she's like, it's been sitting vacant for about I think she said about 5 months or so. I'm not sure. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but she said, and that's the number that I'm negative from not having tenants in it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, you got it. I'm not going to argue.
And so when he cashed out, so you said, let's go over that a little bit because I want to make sure that it makes sense. So how did he cash you out, and what he cashed out, how did he pay that 19,000 right here?
Okay, so we had paid down that 19,000 over the last 24 months, and I want to say it was down to about 10 or 11,000 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did from there is when he paid, he literally just deposited 16,000 into our business bank account. When he did, I immediately went to the bank. I paid off the seller's debt on the property, which was right at $10,000, which left me with about a $6,000 left over from the cash out, and then that was all mine. That was all mine. Since he already owned the property, all I had to do was, mobile homes are a bit like vehicles. They have a title. So I just
Yeah.
signed the title over to him for the mobile home, and then I released the lien on the property because he had paid me out.
Nice. Okay. So we had that 19,000. That was when you guys bought it. This was the seller's mortgage, or how much
Correct.
they owed. And so over the 24 months, he paid that 383 PITI.
Mm-hmm.
And so that paid it down to about like 9,800. And then when he cashed out 16,000. Was what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Perfect. So he paid that off. So
Yeah.
from the 16,000, he pretty much paid off. We'll say that 10. Okay, and then that makes sense. So you got about 6,000. So you got Let me revise this. Cool. So of that 16,000, I'm going to add it here as well.
Okay.
So these were to the seller and closing.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's make this a different color to make it look easier. And then minus the 10,000. And that was to the mortgage, essentially to pay it down or to pay it off.
Mm-hmm.
So then your profit was this minus that, which was something. So 24,200.
So it roughly comes out to about 20. Yeah, I think overall I made about, we'll just say north of $20,000.
Interesting. Wait, actually, okay. So this is what I'm getting, because if this was the entirety,
Well, what
because
you did there, if you'll look, what you did there is you have the 10,000 plus the 16,000.
yeah,
The 24 months at 300, I believe, would be what? It'd be like 3,600 of a year, so that'd be
7,200.
7,200. So you'd have to add 7,200 to the 10 and the 16, which would
Yeah.
come up to like 26, like what, 32, 33K instead of 24K.
Yes, there we go. 33. That's right. I mathed wrong.
You're good. You're good. So that brings that up to, a little over 30 grand. It's like 33,200. And then
Okay, and then minus those right there, the 2,200 for the seller, 3,000 for the closing, 10,000 for the mortgage. So it was about 18,000.
yeah.
There
you
we go. There we go. Wow. Way
So-
better than what I initially wrote.
it was a good deal. It literally did work out for me very, very well. And I'm so proud of that it did, because it could have went very, very south. A lot of people's first time deals do,
Oh, yeah.
for sure they do. And so I got really lucky there. I feel blessed, but I've always been kind of the person who, I spend too much time in the Zoom vault. I'm not going to lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
I am literally that guy that Pace says don't be. I'm the guy that spends like 6-8 hours all at once just scouring content because I'm interested in it. You know what I mean? But it has kind of paid off for me, because I'm able to take that knowledge and help other people with it. I'm able to take that knowledge and, if someone else, in the deal structure lets you down, you can take up that role because you know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can literally almost operate every single role in a real estate deal. I can be my own TC. I can be the closer. I can be the integrator. Do I want to do that on every single deal? Absolutely not, because it makes it so painful. You know what I mean? But I am that guy that can literally pick up any role in the deal if someone else, fails to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let me tell you, because I know we're probably running a little bit short on time, let me tell you the most exciting part of this story.
Do it.
So now that we've got the deal broken down, that really changed my life, because it really shifted my mindset. let's go back to the pin we placed on the video. Okay,
Yes.
that Pace put on YouTube. After that video was posted, someone about 3 hours north of me would end up seeing this video. They would look me up on Facebook, and they would reach out to me, and they said, "Hey man, I've got this 37-foot luxury camper that I'm wanting to wrap. Can you help me?" And I said, "Help you, bro? I'm probably your buyer." And we started talking about it, and I ended up structuring it from a wrap to a sub 2, and I ended up taking the camper sub 2. So I get this 37-foot camper, 4 slides, will sleep up to 8 people, all the amenities. I mean, it's just really, really nice, and about a $60,000 retail camper at least. And I ended up getting it for, I think, I did a hybrid on it for 40 grand or so. I pay his payment every month on it, and then I pay my hybrid payment to him. I think I pay like $600 a month.
Wow.
On this thing, which is in an economy where rent on a 2-1 is $1,500 a month. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, and I for 2 years now, we've not been homeless because of this deal. But what's really cool about this is I was so scared when I got this deal because he lived 3 hours away and I didn't have a truck, which I know, hard to believe, country boy without a truck. I know. But, I was poor at the time. I didn't have a truck. We just had a small car, and I had no idea how I was going to manage getting this trailer down here to my land. And so I remember I got on a Zoom call with Pace that night, and I told him the whole story. He didn't know I was homeless at the time, so I told him this whole story. And I remember him just looking right at me. He said, "Seriously?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Dude, send me the paperwork. Send it to Molly, and let's just make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted." He said, "If they are," he's like, "I will cancel Thanksgiving plans with my family, and I will fly down to Arkansas, spend Thanksgiving with you, and I'll make sure that gets moved to your land."
Wow.
Actually, Pace? He's like, yeah, 100%. So I sent all the paperwork in. Within 24 hours, I had a text on my phone from Pace, and it was a flight confirmation. He's coming to Arkansas.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I have like, how long did we have? 3 days. We had 3 days. He's going to be in Arkansas. So he puts us on task, though. He said, "I need you to find someone to move the trailer." He was like, "Do we have anywhere where we can have a huge Thanksgiving dinner for your community?" And I was like, "Matter of fact, my wife works in education, and they have a huge commercial kitchen, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "Perfect. We'll set that up when we get there." And then he wanted us to find local videographers to record while he was down here, all of this stuff. So we get all of this done. He lands. First thing he does is go to Sam's Club and buys, I don't know how many thousands of dollars worth of food. I'm talking 40 turkeys, 40 hams, all the fixings, all the drinks, probably 40 or 50 gallons of sweet tea. And if you ain't been to Arkansas, you don't know about our sweet tea addiction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're Southerners. We like our tea. But anyway, he gets all of this stuff and he brings it up to the kitchen. And then me and him spend an entire day together just recording content. And me and Laura recorded some content. And literally, it was just the best day. I had their babies just running around my front yard. It was amazing. The second day, we had this huge community outreach dinner. We fed over 1,000 people in a town of 10,000. We fed 1/10 of the population of our town.
Wow.
The third day, we had this huge real estate meetup in our state's capital. I thought it was huge. But perception is a really big thing, because I remember Pace saying, he said, I absolutely love this. There was probably what, 300-400 people there. So there's 300 or 400 people there, and he's like, I absolutely love this. He is like, I have not been to this small of a meetup in probably 5 years. And I was just like, because he's like, I'm used to 3, 4, 5, 10,000 people at a time,
Yeah.
speaking to that many people. He's like, I love this. This is more personal. This is more one-on-one. I'm thinking, I'm just sitting here just trying
That's
to
crazy.
talk to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was absolutely amazing. So over the next few weeks, I would be waiting, because he said what he wanted to do is he wanted to make an hour-long feature on his platform about my journey and about my story. And everyone's excited. I mean, all of the sub 2 leaders just came out from the area to help out with this whole thing. We had sub 2 hoodies lining the street cooking food for people. I mean, it was amazing. It changed my life. It
Yeah.
changed my mindset on what I wanted to be and what I wanted to accomplish in my life. But we're literally sitting here, we're waiting for this video to come out, and finally we got some feedback that would probably be the single biggest blow we've ever had, and we've been homeless for 5 years. Unfortunately, people are people, and not all people are good. One of the videographers that we hired decided they were going to try to extort Pace, and they wanted $20,000 for the footage.
Oh my gosh.
And Pace, being such a kind soul that he really is, he negotiated with this person, and he said, you know what, look, I don't want you to edit the footage, just send me the raw footage, I'll have my team edit it. They finally settled on 13 grand.
Wow.
He paid this guy 13 grand for this footage. The guy sent him 9 terabytes of corrupted data.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it destroyed the whole entire project right there.
Mm-hmm.
That would end up sending me into an absolute tailspin, because I had this idea in my head. This was going to get me in front of a lot of people, because obscurity is the enemy of expansion. You know what I mean? You can't expand in this world if no one knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this idea that this was going to literally be kind of a liftoff to my platform. I'd started doing social media way more than I had, and all these things, but it literally sent me in a tailspin, because I didn't know what to do now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have really any direction, and so I decided to do everything, which is probably the worst absolute decision you can make. I got shiny object syndrome and just completely lost focus after that, and I would end up, unfortunately, losing access to sub 2 for 2 years because of financial problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came in to sub 2 on a financing plan.
Yeah.
And for the next 2 years, I would just kind of do my own thing. And, my idea was always, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to do it all by myself. And I'm going to make this money and I'm going to come back to sub 2. You know what I mean? But 2 years later, it just never happened. And I just realized that probably within the last 6 months, I had like this epiphany to myself that, what's missing? What's missing? Why can't I make the same things happen that I used to? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the answer was community.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my family. I lost my community. I lost access to this resource. And that reminded me of what I'm now known as. It reminded me, I'm not a super religious person, nothing like that. But so I'm not going to start preaching at everybody. Calm down. But it reminded me of the biblical story of the prodigal son, because, he left out, he went and did his own thing, right? He ended up in poverty, sleeping in the streets, because he didn't have the support of his family, right? And he came home with a broken spirit, and he He was willing to even just work, just to be back in the family, work as a servant. And his father, he welcomed him in. He, you know, made a feast for him and put him back in his place of power. So I'm not coming back to sub two as a broken man. I'm coming back to reclaim my power, reclaim my place within the family. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to use the lessons that I've learned to help other people not make the same mistakes I have. You know what I mean? I'm here to be a connector and a resource for anyone who needs it, because I don't want anyone to experience the things I've had to live through in my life.
That's so sweet. I was gonna be my last question, like what does the whole prodigal son mean? But that, I mean, totally ties everything together, and I love how that's your mission. And now it makes sense why you're a connector. I was also going to ask like what keeps you going, and that totally makes sense now. Like you,
I beat you to the punch.
I know you're amazing. You're the best storyteller. I don't even have to ask the
Thanks.
questions. Man, okay, yeah. So you want to help people because you're like, I've been in these kinds of situations. There's no reason why other people should, and I have lived through it. So I want to help those that are, dealing with whatever they're dealing with. I can help them.
100%. And that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. They always want to they always want to choose. This was me in 2022. I wanted to
Mhm.
choose something that was flashy, so I chose a closer role. I chose that visionary closer role because they're the flashiest people in the room. But what I didn't realize is that's not in line with my personality. Don't get me wrong, I'm still the loudest person in the room. I'm still the flashiest person in the room. And love me or hate me, I don't care. And I'll
Uh-huh.
tell you why. It's because you may hate me and you may think, man, that guy's obnoxious, but you're still talking about me. I still got your attention. And what did I
That's
say?
true.
Obscurity is the enemy of expansion. You know what I mean? I want people to know who I am. They don't have to like me, but I'll still help them.
Yeah, and that's nice. That's more than nice. That's very kind and generous to help people, even if they're not the biggest fan of you. But you're like, I don't care. I'm here to help.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to make money. Everybody else wants to make money. And the best way to do that is collaboration.
100%. Yeah. Was it a rising tide lifts all boats?
Yeah, exactly.
Man. So where can people find you, Lucas, and why would they want to reach out to you?
Okay, 100%. You can always reach me on Facebook. You can reach me on Instagram at the real underscore Lucas Burnett. Um, and any just pretty much the real underscore Lucas Burnett on all social platforms. Um, and why would you want to reach out to me? I mean, as far as the connector role, I can be a resource to help bring you private money lenders, private money partners. If you're a buyer that needs a deal, I can bring you a deal. And if you're a seller that needs to sell one, I probably have a buyer for you. So just as my connector role alone, whatever problem you're facing, I probably have a resource for you. Um, then as a buyer myself, I'm always looking for creative deals in and around central Arkansas to north central Arkansas, as well as I'm a wholesaler, so if you have leads, I have buyers. So just almost any situation I can surely find a solution for.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you for joining me, Lucas. It was amazing to hear
Well,
your
thank you
story.
for having me.
Of course. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so, so, so much again.
Thank you.
Bye.